Assalamu alaikum. My name is Salim Siddiqui, and thanks for continuing to watch this series on the hotconflict.com website. And we're continuing our story on the issue of Eid, the great celebration. Now, as we've said, Eid al-Akbar or Eid al-Adha, the great celebration or the celebration of the sacrifice, is done by Muslims all over the world, where Muslims have gathered together, as I'm beginning to tell you this tale, and we're getting to a point of it, that all over the world Muslims are gathered together, celebrating the praise of their Lord, bowing their heads with their families and their communities to praise and glorify God, with their heads bowed towards Mecca, the holy house in the Arabian Peninsula, that Abraham, the great prophet of monotheism, since we're now going to use that word, is known in the Western society, built with his son Ishmael, his firstborn. And we're saying that we're trying to understand the importance of this great holiday, that Muslims all over the world are gathered there right now as we're telling this story for this great thing called the Hajj. And so we said that we're going to continue to tell the story in a way that you've never heard it before. And if you were just joining us, please go back and listen to the story from the beginning, because we're about to get to some really dramatic parts. Well, as you know, the story must always get even more deep and complex, and if the story is of the truth, as I'm swearing before you, then you must understand how to read the signs. Now, if the story is listened to properly and a person is ready to receive the light and listen to the light, then they are going to hear the signs and know the signs and be able to tell what everything means, because the truth is something that when it's told properly, and God help me to do so, makes all things clear and doesn't leave any misguidance. And once you actually hear the whole story, you'll know why that the truth is made clear to you and why you should never be misguided into any false deception ever again. But we said we're talking about some basic fundamentals. Now, the first fundamental that we always said is the statement of faith that has always been in existence from the beginning of the creation of Adam till now, and that is there is only one God, La ilaha illallah. Everybody must always remember that, and we've been through all the stories in detailing why that was important, and the challenge of Abraham to the earth, that my God is the only one who gives life and takes life. He is the creator of all things, Allah, the Lord Most High, and we said Allah is just the term in Arabic for the God, so don't get misconceived or misdirected in any of the liars' falsehoods. The truth of the light is always the same, and anybody who tries to change the nature of God or suggest an image or an idol or a symbol for God is taking you to misguidance. As a Muslim, somebody who says we submit to the will of the Lord in Islam, meaning those who believe in what the true Lord has revealed of the light, and we continue to use the term the light because that is the agreed term that all of those who bore the truth of the light referred to the Lord Most High as the light, Nur, Nurun ala Nur, the greatest of all lights. And we have continued to show how the importance of light was referenced in the story. And we said we were going to get to some strange explanations, and that if you're continuing to listen, you're going to hear some of the most strange things that you've ever heard, and it might scare you and shock you, so please bear in mind that disclaimer. But you're also about to hear, if I'm going to shock you and scare you, then I must also be able to share with you some of the most beautiful information that your soul has ever heard. And that is a promise that I am giving, as all people who reveal the story of the truth, they must tell you great many things. So let's continue on with our story that we said there are fundamentals that God is one Most High, hallowed be His name. He is the creator of all things. He created the angels out of light. He created the Jinns and the other races that we're talking about. If you don't understand that, please go back, because it's going to get dramatically important. Because if you're listening to the story still, you want to know the juicy, juicy stuff, right? So we're going to get to it. Don't get too excited. And we're continuing that the fundamentals are there, that all of the prophets who bore the light from Adam onwards told us that there are going to be coming prophets bearing the truth of the word, and that this will continue to happen, and that all of the Son of Man, mankind, Adam, live and then die, and our soul that Allah has blessed us with, and a noble, glorious thing, is raised on the day of judgment, and we are judged, and there is heaven and hell, and punishment and reward for all of eternity, and that all of this is in the plan of the Lord. These are the fundamentals, and we've maintained them from the very beginning. So we were continuing to talk about the description of where we were, that we have said that now on the earth there is the final prophet, and he has brought a message, and the fundamentals are the same, and so we don't need to go over them. And then there we explained the pillars of Islam, and so we said we're at a time in history, especially now in the modern age, where so much misinformation and misdirection is there, and so we're going to stay away from politics and names and just try and stay with some simple terminology. And so of the pillars of the faith that Muslims are shown, we should see in them, in the story, the truth of the signs of the believing righteous faith. And so we said that the first pillar is there, that there is only one God, and that Muhammed is named as his messenger. And we said that that is an important time for the first time on the planet, that the statement of faith is amended or appended or added to, not that anything is added or subtracted to the greatness or glory of God, but that God, the Most High, is revealing to us that a final messenger is here. And so remember the statement, all of the sons of Adam and all of mankind on this planet forever, that there is only one God, and the last messenger who received the light so that anybody can get it from, his name was Muhammad. And the Prophet told us the rest of the pillars to pray, as we've taught you, in the way of all of the bearers of the light prayed, humbling yourself as a man before God, as man should not be humbling himself before anyone else or anything else of the creation. Glory and great is God above the creation. And we said that the fundamentals always must remain. And so we're continuing to tell the story that after the prayer comes fasting for the holy month, where Muslims don't eat or drink from sunrise till sunset, symbolic and actual purification of the physical body as sons of Adam, and purification at the same time for the spiritual soul, as we've continued to maintain this part of the story so that you understand the truth of the light. And we said we can recognize that sign of fasting from the story of Moses as we complete the ending of this tale, and so all should be made clear. And giving alms, or zakat in Arabic, means anything that God gave you, you share of your wealth to those who are destitute in need of the sons of Adam, as a respect and showing that this is more than just a personal issue. This is in betterment for all of society. And that we've continued to remain these fundamentals, that this is a war between light versus darkness, and the bearers of light are fighting darkness and the other side. And we say the other side because we're talking about the ghaib, the unseen, and I'm going to be explaining things in terminology that even Muslims probably have never heard of in English. And we said the next pillar of faith is the Hajj. And so we were describing the Hajj, and we said the Hajj is composed of certain elements. And we must continue to describe the importance of it, that all of the elements of a ritual, especially if it is going to be the last prophet, must continue from the beginning of time to the end of time. And it is known that the Hajj is being performed every single year, as it is being performed right now as I'm telling you these very words. And that will become important as I prove to you the facts of this story. That Muslims are gathered there right now. And how are they gathered? We described them. Having absolutely nothing, saying, as we've always said, that we are the sons of Adam. We are nothing but servants of the Lord, and no man is greater than another man. So they come bearing just plain white cloth on the bottom and on top, men and women all coming to worship by the house of God, and that there are certain rituals in the clothing that we just described, and doing certain parts of the ritual that were preserved for a specific reason. And from amongst them was the stoning. And we talked about that being a specific reference for Muslims to remember. You are never separate from the chain. Islam, the final revelation, is part of the whole story, unlike what you have been deceived and misdirected to think that Islam is something alien. No, it is not. It is of the human race and connected to the story. So we stone symbolically to remind ourselves not to be tricked by Satan the deceiver who lies about God. And if you don't know the meaning of that, go back and listen to the story. And that action is done by all bearers of the truth to remind ourselves the significance of the great prophet Adam and his son Ishmael, who was almost sacrificed by the will of God. Go back and listen to the story. And from that great noble line comes the new prophet. Unlike all of the other prophets before who were descendants from Sarah and Isaac, God says from now on a change on the earth. The son of Ishmael from the noble house in Mecca will be bearer of the truth for all time. And so the significance of that point should now be made clear to you. But we said the next thing that the Muslims do in the Hajj pilgrimage is walk between two holy mountains, reciting certain celebrations and praises of the Lord. And what are those two mountains? Those two mountains are called Safa and Marwa. Well, what is this strange practice of running 7 times up and down mountains? Well, if we go back to the story, as I said, if he is the seal of prophets and the rituals he have taught us, they don't have to be convincing to you to say, oh, believe in Islam you must. No, submission comes when someone sees the light and they understand the story. Well, walking between those mountains was what somebody did in this strange tale that I told you. Pay attention to every word that I have said and every word that I will speak, because all of it is being done by the name of God. As I say every time, I only speak the truth by the will of the Lord. And that we've known from the very beginning, the worst thing in the world that anybody could do is lie about God, as the other races, the Jinn, the interdimensional being, the reptoid Satan, lied to Adam and morphed into another being and made him do something that he didn't want to do and told him lies about the truth of God. And so forever it has been clear of all those who bear the truth of the light, we will never lie about the Lord Most High. And so, Hagar went back and forth looking for water when the little baby Ismail was kicking, and the water of Zamzam, the holy well, came. And so Muslims go back and forth 7 times. They are still believers in the light, remembering the tale of the story. Oh, you've been deceived, ladies and gentlemen, so listen to the tale. Remembering the tale of the story and what is really the truth of the light in the story, they go back and forth 7 times, remembering Hagar, the dark-skinned woman who had the noble honor of being Abraham's wife, and from her descendants, so that no one could say from now on, only a noble bloodline of Adam. No, any of the bloodline of Adam is now able to take the truth. From the mother Hagar, from a dark-skinned nation, came Ishmael, and then the final true prophet, bearing the light bright and shining for all of mankind. So Hagar runs back and forth, and the Muslims do such. In there is a sign for you that is obvious if you're listening for the truth of the light. And after we finish going back and forth from the mountain, we go to drink of the water of Zamzam that I told you before the time of Islam, before the arrival of the holy prophet, had gone dry because people had lost the truth of the light. But when the prophet, as a blessing to his arrival, was going to come, the well of water as the sign from the Lord sprang forth. And do you know, ladies and gentlemen, that all of this is verifiable, and that the water of purity as a blessings to the people who call themselves Muslims, believers of the light, still is drinkable to this day? Can you imagine the miracles of which I am telling you? And if this is a holy spring of water, as many of the prophets before, and if you don't understand the importance of being gifted with a spring of water, go back and listen to the story. So all of the Muslims all around the world go and they drink in the Hajj that water to purify the soul. Because we said this is always a battle of light versus darkness, and I am just a son of Adam. So listen, O sons of Adam, about the importance of the Hajj. And now, if any of this hasn't been deep enough for you, I'm going to tell you something else. In understanding the truth of the story of the light, do you understand that once anybody opens their heart to the light and they go to search for it, they can never be misguided. And so I'm saying this challenge in open, with all due respect to anybody of the dark skin, who I just referenced Hagar, our great mother, that anybody, no matter what their color or race, who is from this planet Earth, asking and seeking the light, can always seek it, because the seal of the prophets has come, giving you the message for all of mankind, and the story must always end in that way. There can't be anyone who says, if we're telling this is the truth of the story, that humans, all of the sons of Adam, we are all of us bearers of the light, then no one can dare claim superiority of one race over another. And so, since I'm telling you the story in your own English language, for the first time, to your own people, the importance of what I'm saying is so important that you must understand it. From within this land called America, as I'm sitting here by the grace of God, to be in a country that I love. And when I tell you this story in its completion, you'll understand these words, because no doubt by now Muslims who are listening to me are thinking, did he just say he loves America? Yes, I said we're not going to get into politics of the story, but it is important later on, and I'll mention it right now, that from our own history here in the United States of America, there was a man who was dark-skinned, who had heard of the light called Islam. Yet all he knew was hatred of the darkness, so much so that he called any white man a devil. And he preached such hard, harsh words. But he admitted, because he knew that he was so lost, that he didn't understand the story. We can't get into all of the details, but it's such a fundamental that I must address it. This brother of mine was so lost that he said, I am refusing to name myself by my own name, and I will call myself X, because I don't know what is going on in the story at all. Do you understand the story? Are you listening to it? So this brother named Malcolm, X, being totally lost, but only having heard somebody who said to him, there is something called this light of Islam, but he didn't understand the story, and began to preach that black people are greater than all other people, misguided in the truth of the light. But if you've understood what I've been telling you in the importance of the holy house in Mecca, that even this type of man who came to the holy house, when he returned, what did he say? Well, we can't get into all of the details, but clearly our brother, who we think of as Malcolm X, and such a disgusting way to continue to refer to him, knew that when he returned, he said what? I had found the light. I have found the light. From now on, call me the Hajj. Call me the Hajj. Malik As-Shabaaz. We won't get into all of the details, but we know the story of the truth of the light. He came back and said what we must be telling you in this story that is so dramatic from your very own words. That all of the sons of Adam are equal. Just because I'm black doesn't mean that I'm better than a white person. It is only about the truth of the light. All of us are the children of Adam. Now, before my brother Malcolm could ever get a chance to tell you a story, as all people who bore the truth of the light before him, we deal with troubled times, and we know that God decided to take him from this earth. As all sons of Adam live, all sons of Adam die. But I say that as a tribute to my brother, to reference the important turning point in the history of where we are. Because I'm giving a challenge right now that if I'm going to continue to this story, and I'm swearing by God to give you the truth, I must be able to prove the truth to you to the very moment. And so I'm giving you that little reference to el-Hajj, that we see from our own history and in our own times of someone who has received the truth of the light. Peace and blessings be upon all those who receive it. But we said that there, in describing the Hajj, after we got that little aside from our brother Malcolm, there is one more point in the Hajj that has to be addressed. Now, as we said, we're explaining to you all the rituals and all the important parts. Now we get to the most important part of the Hajj. As the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, told us, the process, this thing called Hajj, the ritual that many of you might have heard of, Muslim or Christian or otherwise, is most important point of it is a day called Arafat. el-Hajj Arafat. And since I'm telling you the truth of the story and making you understand it, it is at this moment that the believers, at the culmination of their Hajj pilgrimage, go to a mountain called Arafat, or the mountain of mercy. And they stand there in the most humble way, wearing nothing but their simple white garment that I've told you about. And they stand in front of the Lord and look up into the sky and beg the Lord Most High to grant them success on this earth. It is such a beautiful thing. And it is so important that the Prophet said, the person who doesn't do this thing, it is as if their Hajj is void. You don't understand the significance of this moment in the pilgrimage. And when I tell it to you and make you understand, you will never forget the truth of this story. This significant portion of the pilgrimage, where all of the slaves of God are gathered together begging the Lord Most High to grant them success on the planet Earth, increase them in children and wealth and health and wives and family and offspring, give them all that is great. And your Lord, who has named this the mountain of mercy, is always the most merciful. Of course, everyone misdirects you about Islam and they tell you, oh, the Lord of the Muslims is full of hate. Well, we are telling you, don't listen to what anybody says. Remember the first fundamental. There's only one God. No matter how any of the prophets have described him based on different situations and understanding them, even when Jesus, son of Mary, described him in his closest way as being his father, it never meant that God was anything other than great and holy, high and majestic above all that he has created, you, me, and every form of creation. So on that day of Arafat, people stand there and ask the Lord and make humble prayers. And the Lord Most High says, every year slaves of God come together to worship me on this mountain. And you can see the pictures and go look at your sources. And God answers their prayers in the best of way, that only the Lord Most High is the planner of all things, and he knows all that is good for you, and those who make a true prayer for the sake of the Lord will have it granted. Now, I've told you all the pillars of the faith, the fundamentals of the faith, the pillars of the ritual, but I must get to one next point, and that is the Quran. Now we're going to go back to the day of Arafat and the Mountain of Mercy when I explain to you some deeper points. And the beauty of that day that I have just talked about, even if you're understanding the truth of the light in the message that I gave you, I swear by Allah, as always, the story must be stranger. If you are hearing the truth, then the beauty of the story must be even greater. And when I mention the Mountain of Mercy again, I swear by the Lord, if you have even a little bit of the light and are searching for it, tears will flow from your eyes if you understand the truth of the story that I am going to tell you. But I must get to the final part in this section of the messengership of Muhammad. We're claiming and saying and proving to you why, by clear signs, that we must come to a part in the story where the tale that we are telling you in the story of truth comes to an end, and we have a final messenger. And to the Prophet Muhammad is given the great book called the Quran. And many of you have heard this and know this, and you know that there is a book called the Quran, but let's explain what that really means. The Lord Most High revealed to Gabriel, and Gabriel taught the prophet the words. And the prophet was able to recite them, and the people listened to it and memorized it and loved the words. Now we said, if you understand the story, that the nature of the Arabic people was that they were at the highest state of communication and expression. And we said in this story that you were hearing a form of communication and expression unlike you've ever heard in an English language. And so they received the word of God. It is not until you really deeply ponder this and you look back on the story that you understand how important it was when we talked about Moses, who started to speak to the Lord Most High, and the Lord spoke back to him. And all of the prophets in succession and their way of communicating with the Lord, well, now we have, unlike the title that Moses, Kalam Allah, the one who spoke to Allah, we have been given a sign by the last prophet that he has been given the word. Which means what? That the prophet heard it from the archangel Gabriel, and that Gabriel listened to these words be spoken by the Lord. Do you understand the power of that in and of itself? The power of the word of the Lord. Now we've continued to tell you in the story that whenever a bearer of the truth came and the prophet came to tell their people the story of the truth and the light, it was always in which way? It was by the word. It was by the word. So in this Quran we have the very spoken word of God. Allah, the Lord Most High, the one who created you. Remember the first fundamental, there's only one God, the one who created this whole pattern and everything, as we said in the fundamental, that all of this is by the plan of Allah, the one who made Adam and all of Adam's descendants, and Shaitan, the head of the other race, and all of the other races, the one who made the sun and the moon and the stars and the universe and everything that is in it, spoke the words and chose Arabic to be the language, to be preserved for all time. That the most beautiful language that the earth has ever seen was going to be gifted with the words of the Lord. And that you and me and anyone who has life breathed into them can come now as sons of Adam and find the word of the Lord Most High, and can say with our very tongues the same words that your Lord Most High has actually spoken. The magnificence of that and the power, if only you could understand it, could unlock all the secrets of the universe for you, the power of the word in all of the strange tales that we've told, as armies of darkness have always gathered with their evil extra-dimensional forces and powers to use different powers and methods of witchcraft and sorcery and darkness of their methods and technology and their control of their abilities in their nature of smokeless fire. They have deceived many people on the earth, but the truth has always been that is by the word of God. And all of the prophets told their people the truth of that light. Nothing is more powerful than the word of God. And so it must be, if this is true, that this word of God can't be like all the other words before. It must be preserved and protected in a language that will continue to be spoken by the people on the earth till the end of days. Qur'anun Arabiyyun. An Arabic Quran with a language that we obviously will be everlasting because of the nature of the world around us. In this, there is a sign that the Quran is the true word and everlasting like all the other signs of the final messenger of the Lord. Let me stop.